Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I'm a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on January 27th, 2023 at approximately 4:27 p.m. PST. Now, I returned to this world for one primary purpose, and that is to spread a very simple message to people that working together, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. Now, I bill myself as a spiritual guide because the tools I offer people are the exact same tools I personally put to use myself. Okay, the philosophies of life I talk about are the ones I personally live by. The big thing to remember here is this is not a question of do what I tell you. This is, I'm going to go do my thing, but here's what you need to do. What I'm here to convey is here's a path that works. Okay, it's the same path I'm personally talking about. So it's kind of like when you're in gym class in school. Most gym teachers I found when I was going to school, they would turn around and say, come on, we're going to go for a 2-mile run, right? And they'd stand there and wait until you got back, except for one physical education teacher that I had, and he happened to be in grade 11. And he turned around, and when he said, we're going to go for a 2-mile run, he would run out in front of us. Okay, now the quirk to it all was he'd run backwards in front of us and encourage us to come on, to keep up with him, right? This is the same thing that the leaders of yesteryear used to do when they said, we're going to war. Okay, the leaders of yesteryear would be at the front of the battle lines. Today, when people go, when leaders go, I'm going to, we're going to war, or we're going to fight, we're going into this battle. Most of them sit down on their tail feathers and tell everybody else, you go out there and fight. I'm going to sit here and watch from my comfy little chair. Okay, now, before I go any further, okay, we have Shadow and Sun coming in with the gold. How's it going there, Shadow? Okay, and JCL comes in at silver, followed immediately thereafter by Joe with bronze, and Saint comes in with honorable mention. Thank you so much, guys, for popping in here. And I'll show this to people a little later there, Shadow. But I've been saying that I was working on some of the figures. This is the newest one that I just finished racking off. Okay, he's now done. Okay, now you can't tell very well, but the inside of his mouth is red. Okay, so this is one of the guys that I've just finished tying off. I don't have to paint him anymore. Okay, I'll show other people this a little later. I just wanted to let you know. Thank you so much. Figured, if you look up above there, Shadow, you'll see there is a link there to your show. Because quite frankly, I've watched a few of your shows, granted, after you've been off air, but my schedule gets a little screwy at best. But when somebody is telling you this is the path to go through, this is the path to follow. Okay, if they're just telling you follow this guy, follow this path, and they're doing something entirely different, you might want to question what they're asking you to, they're asking you to follow. Now let us see if we refresh that. Do we get our link? Because that way I don't have to lean forward to take a look at it. Oh, there we are, and we are live. So now I can see the screen that I require. And what do we got? We're going to get noise backflash. There we are. I do hate getting the hiccups when I come online. But I figured today we would take a look at how to move, how to put your own fears behind you in a functional fashion in order to succeed. If you're used to following one set of outcomes, I know for me this is very much the case. Every time I have turned to a corporation or a large company in any capacity, okay, by any name, they've got fantastic salespeople. But I end up with, that's probably better for me than a teaspoon of sugar, which also, by the way, works. But due to the fact, I've got, Lord knows how much peanut butter I've got. It's amazing. I do what I call lobby shopping. But thanks so much for that little piece there. We'll try that again. Thanks so much for that piece of insight there, Saint. The amount of, this is one of the things I like about the people in this channel, is I can make a comment, and yes, I do strive to guide people down a functional path, but it's a give and take thing, it seems, which is quite frankly what this is all about. That working together, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. Now, there are certain to be some people that this doesn't work for. Those are usually the people that go, I want to point the finger at everybody else and blame everybody for my problems, and I'm just going to be miserable and make everybody miserable that I can. Now, I don't know if this is a conscious thinking case. Well, it can't be in all cases. Some people, it's a subconscious thing, because that's what you've been taught. Okay, and of course I'm going to have this problem. You'd think that I would learn, but no. So I'm just going to go over here and open my window, at least for a time. There we go. Now, once you take a look at things, once you start looking at the way your world is working, and you identify where your fears are coming from, be they from past issues that you've run into this lifetime. And we'll get to the other ones in a while. Maybe not even today, but once you identify where your fears are, you've got something to work with. And again, it boils down to this. Figure out what they are and then find a way. And that literally boils down to really searching your own heart. Sometimes talking to other people about what you're going through can work wonders. Okay. But for me, I keep, when I talk about what I'm going through, this is why I say, when I give an idea, I'll tell you flat out, do not just take my word for it. I'm not about to lie to you to make you feel better, but go and do your own research. This is a critical issue. Okay, because if you don't do your own research and you don't know what's going on, you're essentially following blindly. Not necessarily a good idea. Now, the reality behind life is this. You have a choice. Every one of you has the same choice. You can continue looking in the past and going, my life is miserable. Everything I've done has been a failure. I've got the same option. Okay. And, I made the comment the other day to my other half. Or, I made this comment to my other half. And she took it understandably a little bit edgy. Because what I told her was I quit. I just give up on this whole thing. But she presumed that I wasn't very clear about it because of the state I was in. She presumed that I was giving up on the YouTube channel on the idea of getting my books published. Okay. And on the whole 9 yards and just sitting back and dying, which one day I will get around to. This is not that day, and tomorrow isn't looking that promising. And then I turned to my little brother, and I told him something very similar, where I quit dealing with corporations. It's just I'm not interested in it anymore. I get lied to way too often. And if you work for a corporation that's being honest, well done. Unfortunately, that has not been my experience overall. So you have to look. It's really important. Take a look at the things that you're afraid of. The things that you worry about, if you will. By doing that, once you know what they are, you can start adjusting things in order to really shift gears and find a more effective way of moving forward. Because the key here is this. Take a look at what you feel is in your way, what is not contributing to you being happy or you being successful. As you do this, you'll find either by going through it yourself, by writing it down, the pros and cons of what you're doing, or by talking to someone that you can connect with. Okay, whether this is a friend, a stranger, a spiritual leader, anything at all, a person of a support group, it doesn't matter. As long as you can connect with them and they can help you feel a little more secure in yourself. Okay, this is one of those keys. But once you start removing the things that you feel are not contributing. Jenny, how you doing? Glad you could join us. There were ways in the past that worked extremely well. People were so connected with the goings on of the natural world. They understood on an instinctive level that things take time to transition. They do take time to grow. And this is something that we've got to get looking back at. Because if we don't, we are going to continue down the same road that we have done several times in the past. Okay, now I do have an advantage in some ways. In other ways, I'm completely behind the 8 ball. Okay. So from that standpoint, I look back and go, I remember the mistakes that were made at the end of the Roman Empire. I remember the mistakes that were made as the monarchies fell. Okay. I remember the absolutely cataclysmic mistakes that were made in Manoa and in Pompeii. And the Black Death, that was another one that was, again, something that we knew was happening, but in our defense, we really didn't understand why we weren't connecting with it. Okay, in today's world, they've taken the concept from the Black Death and blown it right out of proportion. In the Black Death, one of the things that we ended up discovering was the cleaner things were, the less the death carried. It was just that simple. Now, that one there, Saint, Saint has just asked, RK, where do you see my future going? I feel like you know for some reason. Well, in a nutshell, do I? The answer is yes. Will I actually make that mistake and tell you on here? Absolutely not. I've made that mistake before and it usually backfires. Okay. I do have a very solid idea as to where it's going, but I strongly recommend, in order for me to answer that question, okay, there's a whole pile of contact points below this video. Use any one of them to get in touch with me, and I'll be more than happy to bring you up to speed. Okay, I've made the mistake, and I do appreciate the confidence, by the way, there, Saint. I made the mistake of answering a question very similar to that for somebody one day with company around. And the guy wouldn't talk to me for 3 years, and quite frankly, it created all kinds of problems. Sorry, not 3 years. It was only 3 months, but still. It caused all kinds of problems for him. Because where you're heading, the rest of the people in this chat room, if you desire to tell them that's more than your right, and if you decide to pass the information on and tell them, this is what I told you were looking at, you're more than welcome to, and I certainly won't deny it. Okay. As long as it gets brought up by somebody that this is what I've been told. Okay, if you pass it on, that is absolutely up to you. Kimberly, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Hope your day's been going well so far. And holy mackerel, would you look at that? We are already in the chat room. We are 15 minutes in, and we're already at 12 people. Okay. This is absolutely fantastic in my eyes. Oh, by the way, just a real quick update here. We are currently sitting at 356 subscribers, that is. And like I said, the number as far as the 356 goes, where are we here? The reality of it, they're saying, oh, okay. Yeah, where are we here? I need this. Here is the easiest email to catch me out there, Saint. What do we do? JCL, how you doing? Actually, I think I saw you in the room already. But hi anyway. Here you go, Saint. Contact me at this point and we can set something up. That's the easy part. And yeah, I ended up, it was funny, I went out for lunch today there, Kimberly, and I got stopped in front of a store. Don't ask me which one. Okay. I ended up standing there talking to somebody else about spiritual paths and what have you, and some of the hiccups that people have been going through. I'm finding it a lot more enjoyable and a lot more, who do we got? And a lot more, looking out the window, head movement, and figured I'd find out who. We are getting, people are getting more connected. Okay. They are getting more connected with the idea of what spiritual path, which one works best. Okay. And it really is about which one works best for you. Okay. For you, the individual. Once you start understanding where your fears are, give you an idea here. And I will, much as I will tell you wholeheartedly that I'm not about to lie to you to make you feel better. Okay. Do I trust people to do the same? The answer is, frankly, no. My little brother, I was talking to him today, and he goes, you got to trust these people. And I looked at him, I said, you can stop right there. I said, you start off with, I've got to trust somebody to do that. For me, that doesn't work anymore. Okay. And it's not that I don't follow through with what I'm telling people. Okay. But I've had way too many hiccups. Okay. So I've got this neat little list I keep working on. So I've had to take a look at a whole bunch of things. Perfect. You're going to have to forgive me there, Saint. I will get back to you on that. Well, let's just double check, make sure it got here. It should have. I'm just checking to make sure it arrived so that you know that it's here. And how about if we refresh that? Well, that's interesting. Gonna have to wait for a little while for it to show up, I suspect. And that's okay. Where are we? Right about there. Okay, it hasn't shown up yet, but remember that thing I mentioned about that list? I keep this thing handy so I can do it. So, what we do, the first thing that happens when we get done this feed, is I will go to that email and connect with you there, Saint. Hopefully my email didn't get it scrambled and sent it somewhere else. But that's why I sent you the link, is because usually it works out that way. But take a look at where your fears are. Okay. What pattern have you been observing that has you set on that edge? Well, the good news there, Joe, I like the way you count. In all honesty, Joe, and don't take this as a compliment. You come across as being a lot older than what you are. Okay. We wouldn't peg you for only 43. That's not meant as an insult by any functional stretch. Did I go down? Nope, I'm in the right path. Yeah, we're just going to have to wait for that and see what happens. Oh, That's going to be a problem there, Saint. If you keep sending it to the wrong email, the odds are I won't get it. Yeah, it's just that simple. But that's okay. You work on that, and hopefully we'll get that sorted around. But no, Joe, honestly, you strike me as a lot older. Okay, which is probably equates to a lot wiser, never mind the age. Okay, but find out what pattern you've been following. You can do that yourself or by talking to those close to you. Okay, you may find that you've been setting yourself up for complications. Now, I keep telling myself this, and I still inevitably, at this point, more often than not, I run into problems dealing with so-called professionals, as in people in major corporations, major companies that claim that they know what they're doing or they can do things. I find the little guy is far more interested in doing what they claim than the big ones are. Okay. And that can be a real challenge to start with. But what we're looking at this point is you identify what is not working for you. Okay. Like I've gotten confirmation on a few things, and I've started clearing out this set of shelves here. The contents are going to go away. Okay, because quite frankly, they've got to in the next few months. Okay, let's just double check that. I'm just going to wait for it to kick and see what happens. Hopefully that works out. But, when you're looking at the path you've been following, if you're used to always turning right, running into the same problem, let me put it to you this way. Lifetimes ago, in all fairness, universal flips ago, I reached a point, I'd done the same job, and yes, I am talking past life. And again, for those of you who haven't crossed this border with me, okay, if you take a look at what we know is what you've been taught is the Big Bang Theory, the beginning of the universe, the beginning of the current rendition of the universe. Well, that's interesting. Well, not really. It says the address can't be found. That's an entertaining complication. Because, where am I here? The only thing I can tell you, if you take a look at that, where are we? The only thing, if you're, this email is the one that I get everything else through. Okay. Now, if you're typing it in and for some reason it gets kicked over to .com, it will not come to me. Take a look at that and see if I can see it on this one. Oh, well, that won't help. There, hit enter. There you go. That should help immensely. Yeah, there are two kinds. If you're typing the address in there, Saint, there are two things that can happen that have consistently happened for people. If you don't have an S at the end of enterprise, okay, so it's inner voice enterprises, as in plural, that's one of the common mistakes. Or if you're typing it in INTER, okay, the other common one is if you are typing it in as or letting it default to .com, then it won't get to me. Okay, this is where it can be complicated to say the least. This is why I tell people technology and I don't necessarily cooperate. But when you take a look at what you're doing, okay, first rule of thumb, ask yourself, are you content with where your life is heading right now? Are you content with the way your path is going? If the answer is yes, then by all means stay on it. But if the answer is no, it is time to start shifting gears. It really is time to start eliminating the things that are causing a problem, that are holding you back, if you will. I would love to know what the problem is there, but hey, what the heck. Okay, let's hit refresh and make sure it shows. And Saint, it arrived. Okay. That means I did get the message finally. Welcome to technological complications. Okay, but I did get it and I will respond to it. Well, I've got it on my list. Okay, I've got it on the first thing off after we get off this feed. And I will get in touch with you right away after that. Okay, now let us go back to this neat little thing here. And that is fantastic, Kimberly. I always like hearing that people have managed to get things turned around where they're content. Okay, it is an ongoing process. And this is something I find that many people, they'll make certain changes to start with. Oh, what do we got here? Let's hit that. I just got an interesting message that I saw. Sorry, what do we got? There we are. Okay. I will deal with that afterwards. Anyway, this whole idea of reinventing yourself, if you will, is an ongoing process. I do it on an almost daily basis where I double check the path I'm on, double check that the goals that I've got going on are working for me. Okay. Matter of fact, after I get done with you, Saint, once this video's over, just got a message. I've got a couple of things that have to happen. And again, I do this while I'm on the air because by my doing this, all I'm doing is saying this is the tool I use, and I strongly suggest you use it as well. Because quite frankly, what I've found is it does help immensely. Okay, that's the reality behind it. Yeah. That's the funny part. I seem to fit both. I don't leave the house a whole lot, except to go to one place, when I have to run errands and what have you. But I do know, and I know you're all aware of this, if you desire to get to really prosper in this world, you're not going to do it staying home and staying out of touch with people. Which is one of the reasons why I look at this video, at this live feed, and go, this is where I'm heading. This is what I'm working on. Because it's necessary to make connections with people in order to start moving ahead. And with this in mind, if you haven't done so already, it would really be appreciated if you'd hit the thumbs up, assuming, of course, you like the stream. And do remember to hit that subscribe button. My goal at this point, and I'll be double checking it, I know it's gone up a few in the last little while, which is great, and I gotta thank the newcomers for that. But when I started looking at this whole stream thing, on March 6th of 2021 was when I started posting videos at all. And I'll tell you, the first number of them were clunky as all get out. I still have problems with them. But when you've decided you're doing a rebuild, for me, it started out by taking everything that I had in the office and starting to clear the clutter. Now, the other area, and I did this today, the arteries in your primary living space and or primary workspace, meaning the hallways and the common areas between them. Get the clutter moved out of them, because as soon as you get that clutter moved, what you've got going on is you'll find your energy levels climb. If you're struggling with depression, I don't struggle with depression. I just take it head on and just drop straight into it, which, by the way, is not a good idea. Mind you, it's kind of like being bordering on a heart attack and going, well, that's a really bad idea, so let's try that one. Done and been there, done that. Heart attacks, painful as all get out, but not as bad as a stroke. I recommend neither, in all fairness. But if you get the choice, the heart attack's easier to recover from. Assuming, of course, it doesn't kill you. Well, not to be conflicting here, Kimberly, but you did have a choice. You actually could have just thrown your hands up and said, I give up. I'm not doing anything more. Personally, I'm glad you didn't give up. Okay. Yeah, I understand that, Joe. I get a kick out of it here. We get told, oh, you've got a 12-hour snowstorm coming in, and we end up with a 1/4 inch of snow on our driveway. I'm going like, well, actually, parking lot. I'm looking at this going, well, that was a good snowstorm. I like it. But like you, Joe, I tend to hole up pretty quick. We're scheduled for later this week to hit 18 below, which becomes about 6 below Fahrenheit, roundabout. Okay. But again, it boils down to, what are you content with? The reality of it is, we have a choice. We can continue looking at the past. And yes, I'm as guilty as the next person of it. I've looked at the past and got caught up in it. I don't like that word. I used to mention that a lot, the word gotten. I realize it is an actual word. I still don't like the feel of it. But the reason for looking at your own fears is, ask yourself, is this fear something that is doing me any good? I mean, the fear, if you're a roofer and you have a fear of falling, then using the safety harness makes absolute sense. In all fairness, if you're a roofer and you're absolutely at home up in the high wires, using a safety harness is still an idea. Because I'll tell you, you don't use a safety harness and you have that one little glitch you weren't counting on, and landing on the ground 3 floors below. The nice part is the fall actually doesn't do much damage. It's that sudden stop when you hit the ground floor that causes the problem. And for those of you that are not aware, this is your useless information for the day. A body falling from 100 feet onto concrete or onto water. Which one's better? Well, let's see. Onto concrete, you're likely going to split your skin. On water, you won't split the skin, but you're likely to break every bone in your body. Okay. Now, you get to figure out which one's better. Personally, I prefer not falling. But, I'm kind of on the self-preservative side on that one. Hey, Carl, how you doing? Glad you could join us. The good news, like, I'm just looking at this here. I love watching the side chatter. I know some rooms, you go into them and they go, keep on topic, don't go talking about side chatter. And I look at it going, but this is how you guys communicate with each other. And if I'm going to tell you that working together, we can make this a better world, it kind of indicates that you really have to look at it and start talking to each other to make that happen. Absolutely, that does work there, Joe. Joe's just saying, they say doing exercise, walking, yoga will get rid of depression and anxiety. Well, where I'm at in Ortonville, Michigan, I just don't have that option. I get a kick out of it because doing exercise, I know there's a couple of people I know, and they say they're exercising all the time. But you look at them going, I looked at the one guy because, quite frankly, he had a beer belly that had to put him at least 100 to 150 pounds overweight, over a functional weight. I had a great big belly, and I looked at him and I says, "You're telling me you're doing one-arm curls?" He says, "Yeah. Every night I grab my pitcher of beer and I start drinking." Right? He says, "I'm doing my one-arm curls." I'm thinking, I'm not sure, but I think that's counterproductive. As far as walking goes, I've got a similar issue. Well, I've got a similar issue. I don't exercise a whole lot. I keep telling myself I have to, but remember what I told you a while ago. There's this philosophy of life that I do live by. When your mind can conceive it and your heart can believe it, then you can achieve it. Okay. Well, the problem there is these don't always connect. Okay. And it's always that issue of if that heart is not saying, "Hey, now is the time," you're going to run into snags getting it to happen. Okay. Now, for me, I know I've got to bring my strength level, like my energy levels up. I keep passing out at really stupid times, like 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. I mean, passing out. I mean, like last night, I went down to stretch my back out, laid down on the bed, and woke up at 3 o'clock this morning. Right? So I'm like, this is not working well. But you identify what you're not content with, what you feel is holding you back. Maybe you've run into snags and you just don't understand or don't connect with how to talk to people. Okay, I'm the last one to talk to about a, shall we say, diplomatic approach to anything. Okay, I'm absolutely not the person to talk to. But as I've mentioned, I'm quite willing to be straightforward with people. Okay. But what we have to look at is why look to the past? Why look at your own fears? Well, if you're afraid of things falling apart, if that's where you're putting your focus, you can almost bet your bottom dollar that you will end up with things falling apart. Okay. Now, I'm quite happy. I turned around the other day. My credit rating, quite honestly, is an absolute shambles. Okay, but that's because I did a lot of damage to it at the guidance of so-called professionals. And now I finally got my head on straight and things are moving forward. See, now just think of this, Joe. With the cemetery right behind your house, you've even got company. Being empathic, you really have company with this. You can go for a walk in the cemetery and you can always have people willing to walk with you. Of course, I don't know if that's a good thing in your eyes, but from my standpoint, it's kind of an entertaining one. See, this is the nice thing about a chat room, where you guys do interact. And yes, I know I'm looking at it and going, "Oh, here you are." Oh, that's cute. Yeah. See, again, this is an issue. We got people all over the place. And let's face it. Let's face it, Kimberly. Kimberly and Joe, a chat room like this, yes, you're close by. But because we're in a virtual world in a lot of ways at this point, quite often people don't even know they're right next door. I was out walking. I went out to the restaurant today, and ran into a chap that, as it turns out, we hit very much on the same belief structure. I never knew he existed, save for the fact that I stopped to talk to his guide dog. Right. Turns out he only lives like 2 or 3 blocks from me. And like I've mentioned, much as I am reclusive, I am quite willing to connect with people, go for coffee, that sort of thing, if you're ever in the area. you know, the nice part about it is when you're changing the way your life is going, like I came to the conclusion that yes, I'm still getting all of the books done that I've been talking about. I'm waiting for my last batch to come in so that I can move them in. And then I've only got 3 more batches. I've only got 15 more pictures to do for Races of the World. So as a matter of fact, best be doing that. Got those down, and we will do the expansion there today. Get a bunch of that done, and then we will go Y12 gets done, which is the next book of the Yldrbac Chronicles. Okay, starting on Monday, I will start making phone calls to corporations that I have to deal with. Even though I have troubles with them virtually all the time, I'll have to figure out how to work past that. You know, the nice part about making a change to your intent to redefining yourself, I've told people for years, I've been a stable recluse, and I'll use the term stable a little loosely, for the last decade. But it has become apparent that it's time to step out, at least in the visual world, and go, okay, we got to look at this and we've got to start working together and do something about this. Okay, the thing I'm referring to doing something about is we've got to start looking at each other and going, okay, how can we support spiritual and positive spiritual growth between us? How can we re-solidify those lines in spite of the number of times that somebody decides that they're going to post on the video on social media? Oh, here's something they said, this is going to kill you and that's going to kill you and we're all going to die. And I don't know. I will agree with we're all going to die. I'm just not looking to do it very soon. Okay. But there are some absolutely bizarre concepts that some people are coming up with. And I have no idea why people are doing this. Well, I do. Every single person I know of, and when I'm talking person, I mean every entity in existence that I've come across has the same thing. They desire to be seen as something special. Okay. People on the whole like to stand out. They like to be recognized for what they're capable of doing, for what they're able to do. And one of the reasons why I have mentioned, when I'm talking to people, I know some of you by name, but the name you're posting is the one I work with. Okay, number one, because I remember it easier, because I'm looking at it. But virtually everybody in existence, okay, all the way from the paupers to the multi-billionaires, they all desire to be recognized for something they're doing well. Well, a couple of things to keep in mind, Joe, just to put things in perspective. Every woman you know, as a matter of fact, every human that I've ever run into that is born empathic. We are taught to ignore it. Okay. Now, why people are taught to ignore it, I'm guessing is basically because of fear. Okay. But the good news is that every woman you run into out there, every guy runs into, or every guy that every woman runs into, you're all born empathic. Now, that's to start with. Second of all, Joe, every single person on the planet has issues. You would not believe the stack that I'm running with. And this is not a question of going, oh, I've got more issues than you do. Or, you have Big J, how you doing? Glad you could join us. And that's the thing people have to realize is when you're looking at a situation, no matter how big the issue is to everybody else, a major problem, like maybe you're talking to a 6-year-old and the 6-year-old has had a problem because a kid took his lunch money or made a comment about his drawing, about his artwork. To you, that may be a mild little thing, but to them, it can be absolutely devastating. Nice part there is, just to clear that up, Kimberly, yes, empaths do draw narcissists, but here's the funny part about it. They attract everything else. Where empaths run into the problem, on the whole, from what I've seen, is empaths are taught you have to be nice to everybody. And the reality is, from my experience, when you learn to say, okay, I know that's a narcissist, I'm not content with it, bring it to their attention and tell them point blank, this behavior stops by your choice, or we do by my choice. Okay, it's a question of remembering where to put the boundaries in. Society can change people, but the reality of society changing people is if the majority of society is telling you, go this route, okay, and you go that route, and maybe you were really positive beforehand, but you hear everybody in society saying, this road that you're trying to walk on is a bad road, okay, society can put so much pressure on you that you'll give up on the positive outlook. Absolutely. But I like the way it was put, and I forget what show it was. Okay, but I know it was one of the Avengers movies, but those are also the movies I tend to watch. But it was said really nice that your responsibility to you is to stand for what you believe in, even if everybody else thinks even if the whole world thinks what you believe in is wrong. As long as what you're doing is not deliberately hurting other people, as in going against karmic law, then absolutely I encourage you to stay on that path. Okay. I know when we look at the TV issue there, Kimberly, I know we used to have all these little family shows that showed people dealing with normal problems and how they work through them. It gave our generation an interesting, if you will, mirror to look at. In today's world, everything seems to be an issue of, let's see how stupid we can make the family unit out to be, and let's see how many conflicts we can solve by shooting people. And then you look at society and go, gee, I wonder why society's in trouble. And no, I do not blame I don't blame the movie industry. Okay, because I've seen this going on for years. Where the responsibility lies as far as that goes is if everybody is going to the movies that show this kind of behavior, that's where the movie companies make their money. Okay, if people stopped going to them and started asking for movies or for shows that dictated positive family interaction, that's where the big industries would go, because that's where the money would suddenly be. The biggest challenge, kids are born, we're all born with the higher senses open. But we're taught as we get older that, that's all, it's either evil or it's bad or you're going to be ostracized, people won't like you. And you're constantly bombarded with this right from childhood up to your adult years. I still get people telling me that this is a problem. I was talking to somebody the other day, and they mentioned that they feel like they've got to make some pretty serious changes, but the people around them are not adjusting to it well. Well, this is going to sound cold on my part. Okay, but I'm a firm believer that if you're striving to do something that is not intentionally hurting somebody else, Okay, and I don't mean that they all have to agree with you. They certainly do not. But if what you're attempting to build, if what you're attempting to do is not deliberately causing a problem, then carry on. If you can stand up and proudly look in the mirror and look out to the world around you and go, I did this, then absolutely keep doing it. I know somebody that is in the process of medically getting altered. They're in the process of medically getting changed to another gender. And that's fine. Not my cup of tea. I'm quite happy with the way I am. But this individual is having trouble with it. And the people around him, around them, are not being supportive. The fact of the matter is that kind of a change, the only person it really directly affects is the individual involved. And, is the individual involved? Right. So when you're dealing with somebody like that, yes, you'll have to adjust to, assuming you desire to keep them around you, you'll have to adjust to that situation. But if you're holding yourself back from making some sort of major transition, I know people that it's like, well, people won't like me if I move out, or people won't like me if I leave my current job and move on. People on the whole, and I mean every species I've run into, okay, on the whole, desire to be accepted, acknowledged, and respected for what they are, for who they are. This is not an isolated situation. We have roughly 8 billion people on the planet right now, all of which have the same outlook, all of which have these same goals, these same desires, as it were. So I really strongly encourage you, take a look at the path you're on. We talked about this the other day. If you're going to a place where the spiritual leader is telling you, follow this person, worship this individual, look up to this person, this industry leader. But understand, if you don't do exactly what they tell you, they are going to make your life miserable. Okay. Myself, the way I operate with things, if somebody asks me a question, I'll go, here's the answer. Do with it what you will. Am I going to be mad if you don't do it? Absolutely not. I may question why you asked, but, odds are I won't say a word about it. From that standpoint, take a look at this whole issue of what you feel is in your way. Maybe, as I discovered the other day, right, I was looking at my own issues, and I went, I've got all this clutter around me. And, maybe that was an issue of, if I keep all this clutter, all this disarray, if I continue playing the card of, I cannot organize, then I never will, and it'll keep people at bay. Okay. When I finally came to the conclusion that, yes, I actually can organize things, all of a sudden things started moving a little more smoothly. Now, this does not negate what I said earlier about my running into major problems with corporations. Okay. So I have every intention on turning things around. And something that I did decide I was going to do, I'm actually doing a rebuild on my company. Now, okay, this one here, that one, okay, is the backbone to how I changed my outlook on life. How I went from being a somewhat self-destructive recluse to someone who I can stand up, look in the mirror, and go, that's not entirely a bad setup. I used to look in the mirror and go, oh my gosh, how could I look like that and go out in public? But you go back 2 years, my hair was down past my elbows. It was way down here. Okay. And I was 50 pounds heavier. Okay. Yeah. Now, of course, hair down to here, 50 pounds heavier and a full beard mustache. You can go back and look at the video. guaranteed it's going to keep most people at bay, especially when you've got a mouth like I've got. Okay. But when I started peeling away the outer skin, dropped the excess weight, got the hair cut back, and I did that for me. Next step is I gotta quit putting these on, but the problem is my eyesight is not good enough to read this here, to read the writing on the side here. And frankly, where it comes to Windows, I don't know how to adjust the sizing of the font right off the top of my head. So that creates an interesting problem. Okay. But, and the reality is I've taken a look at a lot of the changes that are going on around you. Okay, around me, around the world. And what I came to understand is that we're all guilty of doing the same thing. We note the things that are going sour. And here's a formula for it where it comes to social media. Okay, when you're looking at your social media, if you're posting or if you're reposting, look who got embarrassed by who. Here's an article that shows who got ripped off. Here's an article that shows there was another mass shooting, which these are all terrible things. But for every one of those you post, do the world a favor, please. Okay. Post 2 that show here's an animal helping an animal. Here's something that somebody got a promotion for. Okay. Here's something that somebody's doing to help the environment or their community. Post 2 of the positive ones. It is in this fashion that we will flip that ebb and tide around and turn it into a more positive outcome. And I don't know about you, but I'm pretty tired of living in a world, of seeing a world collapse around me. We do have the option of altering things, but it is up to us to do it. And let's put something else in perspective here. Let's put something in perspective here. We're waiting, so many people in the UFO community are going, we've got to wait for the government to come out and tell us it's real. Let me ask you this. Have you ever known anybody, yourself included, that was standing at the top of the stairs and you slipped, you fell, you stumbled, and you fell down the stairs? Did you require the government or some doctor to come out and say, oh, by the way, you fell down the stairs, and falling down the stairs does hurt? Did you require somebody to come out and show you that? Did you require somebody to come along and tell you that being screamed at by somebody in a drunken rage is not enjoyable? Did you require somebody else to tell you this? Okay. Or did you finally figure it out on your own that, look, I saw this, and whether other people saw it or not, I know that was not an enjoyable setup. I do agree with you there, Kimberly. We definitely require more positive stuff in the world. Years ago, I used to put out a magazine that I called Positive Perspectives. Okay. Due to finances and lack of organizational ability and lack of marketing ability, I ended up having to shelve that for a while. Well, I shelved it completely. I used to do it, I think, probably about 8 years ago now is when I quit. Okay. And I have considered firing it up, but again, the problem is the cash flow right now is a royal pain. Okay. But I suspect what I should do, because it's an excellent way to pass on information, even if it's just a short little news flash. But I got so many things on the go right now, I really have to organize my time accordingly. But there are so many. One of the biggest things I did with the magazine I was writing is I really didn't put much in the way of ads. I did take ads, but I had a ratio for it. One business. Now, amazingly enough, I built the magazine in this size. Okay. And for every 3 pay, I would not put more than one business card sized ad on a 2-page split. I just wouldn't do it. And the reason for having the ads at all was because of the fact that I had to do something to cover the expenses. That'd be a great idea there, Kimberly. It really would. And absolutely, I know the people in this chat room would like it. Myself, I don't tend to watch much in the way of news because I don't see much in the way of positive. And I just cannot, I won't bother listening to who shot who robbed who. It's not that it doesn't matter, but I see it all the time. But absolutely, there is nothing wrong with turning around and scanning through the different channels and what have you, spotting this neat little tiny blurb, so and so got married. Now, John Doe may not know who Peter Michalowicz is, but the fact he got married and that it was an enjoyable thing for he and his wife, then this is the sort of thing. Instead of going, these people got buried and everybody's upset, you go, these people got married and there was a great celebration. This is the sort of thing this world needs. It really does require it. Okay. Not to be facetious, Kimberly, but I hope you don't take it from a Christian standpoint of thinking, as in a days of 1,000 years. So think about it for another week, and we should get it in about, I don't know, we're in 2, so about 9,000 AD. I'm hoping it comes out before that. But I do strongly encourage you to do that. If you've got the inkling to turn around, even if all you start with is going and scanning through the different channels, the different news medias, the different social platforms, and find those things about positive news. That is something that this world can definitely use. Okay. It is something that would be really beneficial. Shadow, how you doing? Glad you made it back. Now, you cannot argue with that there, Kimberly. An offer like that from Shadow, that's coming from, that's really coming from somebody with one heck of a heart. So it's absolutely something that is, this is the thing this is what I was referring to about this idea of connecting with people. If we all start doing the same thing essentially and going, okay, what's the positive side of what's going on here? How can we take a look at this and jump? Now, and I know I showed this earlier, Shadow, because I did it specifically because you were there. But, I took a look at this. Okay, this is one of the figures I've been working on. Now, if you know Star Wars, okay, I picked it up in a D&D show, but if you look at this critter, it's actually the one that was in the basement of Star Wars when Luke Skywalker was thrown into the bottom of the bin by Jabba the Hutt. This is a Rancor. Okay, so I got him completed. I don't have to paint him anymore. But it was talking to somebody else that used to work with figures that taught me how I can actually save my paintbrushes. But this is, there we go. I'm glad one of us remembers which show. I mean, I figured I did really good. Thanks there, Shadow. I thought I did really well just remembering it came out of Star Wars. But it fit beautifully for one of the situations I had the characters in my D&D campaign working on. But, when we take a look at it, when we look at this world, there is a staggering amount of things going on that are absolutely negative. Okay, that are absolutely depressing in a lot of ways. Nightmare, glad you could join us. I'm really happy with the way things are going. And quite honestly, I'm really happy with the growth that this channel is now actually is starting to go through. And again, I figured if I periodically point this out, maybe it'll help. But The point being this. As a matter of fact, where is it? Got to go to this. Where are we? Shadow. No, not the quantum. Shadow, there we go. Take that, we go copy that. And this is that link for Shadow Show. Absolutely some excellent work on it. Definitely think dropping in and then watching what he's up to is a great idea. I do it from time to time myself. Okay, and I am not the most artistically inclined individual. I forgot to bring that. Okay, I will have to do that. Today is Friday, so I have to do that for tomorrow at this point. Okay, and that is getting a particular blanket shown. One that I actually made. I got it back. I made it for my father years ago. But like I said, artistic work, that is not my forte. But what I was saying here just a little bit ago, this little booklet here, Believe in your business and follow your dreams. This is the backbone of how to make a business grow. Okay, now I'm not going to tell you it's going to lead you to become a millionaire, because frankly, money has to be the back end. It's got to be the side effect. Okay, I keep getting setbacks where it comes to relying on other money. So I absolutely have to look at business. I've got to look at the idea of doing something to generate a higher income. Okay, it's an absolute necessity. Because let's face it, it's either that or I lose the place I'm living. I lose I lose a lot of things. I missed renewing my house insurance today. So I will have to go tomorrow and deal with it. Hopefully they're open. If not, I'll do it on Monday. But the reality is, pick anything that you're not content with in your life, and that's usually easier to figure out than what you are content with. I'm quite content with the idea of I get up in the morning, I don't leave the house much. Okay, but then I can get along with me better than I can most other people. The conversation I was mentioning today, the reason I ended up talking to this one gentleman was because I stopped to talk to his dog. I get along with dogs far better than I get along with people. And I don't have pets of my own because my place won't handle them, won't permit them, really. You're more than welcome there, Shadow. But, the whole idea of when we take a look at our own fears, okay, yes, there is the possibility that something will go wrong, and that's usually something that the thing that we focus on. If I put my foot forward, what if it fails? What scares most of you, and I know it's one of the things that scared me the most, was what if I put my foot out there and it doesn't fail? Okay, what if it works and all of a sudden I get thrown into the spotlight? Okay, the last place I ever looked to get into the spotlight, was quite frankly here. Okay, I never even considered YouTube. To me, YouTube was this technological nightmare. And honestly, I'm not doing great with it in my eyes. But I went from going, no, I'm not interested, to going, okay, let's build this subscription, this subscriber level. Let's build the YouTube channel to several 100,000 people. The way I look at it is this. Yes, I am very outspoken, and I do bite my tongue on certain topics that I figure are going to get YouTube itself to turn around and blacklist me and say, no, you're not allowed to talk. So I am careful on that note. But I've gone from going, I don't want to talk to people at all, to what is the difference between me and one of these YouTubers that sits there playing games and has thousands upon thousands of people watching them play games. Now, I don't like watching people play games to start with. I can't for the life of me figure that one out. My son will spend hours watching other people play games. I'm not built the same way. Right? Or these people that stand up in front of a camera and go, the world's going to end, you're all going to go to hell if you don't do exactly what I tell you. The most amazing one I ever saw happen was years ago. I happened to be in my parents' place, and they had this guy was on TV. He was an evangelist, and I kid you not, it just stunned me that people responded to it. But he stands there in front of the camera, and he goes, God has told me if I don't have $8 million in my bank account by Friday, now this was on a Sunday. He goes, if I don't have $8 million in my bank account by Friday, God is going to call me home. And it's not that I minded him asking. Okay. But I looked at it and went, okay, so he's asking for this. But why, pray tell, so many people took their hard-earned cash to send $8 million to him at God's behest? I'm thinking there might be something off, because the God I know does not tell you that you need X dollars in your bank account or I'm going to kill you. He just doesn't do that. Not the one I believe in. I don't know about the one you believe in. Matter of fact, I don't know about the one that a lot of people believe in. But what I look at is this. Okay. Are you doing things because you think other people, or more to the point, are you not doing something because you're now convinced that other people are not going to approve of what you're doing? Or are you not doing them because you're in truth, when you look behind it, is the problem not so much you're afraid of doing them or you're afraid of failing, so much as you're afraid of being successful? Okay, because I will tell you, success comes with a lot of barriers to it. There are hiccups that come along with it. Okay, and one of those hiccups is if you're used to living on the edge, which is, of course, where I was. Okay, I was used to living paycheck to paycheck. I'm back in that boat again. And every time that I have tried to work with another company to get them to help me with the marketing and get my books out, okay, without exception, they've dropped the ball. They've promised all sorts of things, took my money, which I legitimately said, okay. That one, Jenny, we can deal with. And before I go any further, I'll deal with that one. First things first. Okay. There's no doubt you blocked it out for self-preservation. Start off, and it is recommended you start off slowly. But first and foremost, okay, you take time to sit down with yourself and you go, okay, I'm going to start reaching out and feeling what other people around me, just individuals to start with. Don't go walking into the middle of a crowded room and just go, I want to feel it all, because I will tell you, it'll drive you right up the bend, right over the bend, or right around the bend. But you do it one step at a time. The more you expose yourself, okay, the easier it gets. Like what I'm finding now, Oh, well, I'll finish that, then come back to that. Is that I'd already discovered in the restaurant I go to, they've got about 100 seating. And I was getting to the point of, okay, I can deal with, to start with, about 10 or 15 people. And then I'd have to bail. I've increased it. Angels, how you doing? Glad you could join us. I've now increased it. I can deal with upwards of about 25 in the same room. Okay, and I've decided I'm going to start extending that and staying as long as I can get away with. Okay, but it really boils down to a slow transition. Put yourself around people, but I recommend strongly, do not submerge yourself in a place where alcohol is a primary thing. Because alcohol itself knocks out trained and learned inhibitors. Okay. And Kimberly, I did not realize that, so I'll have to take a look at that. I'm going to, since you've got a YouTube channel, like I've told the other people, Nathan, you just came through the door. How you doing, Nathan? Glad you can make it, and really hope your day's been going well. Kimberly, you've got a YouTube channel. Okay, absolutely. Drop me a line or somehow get it to me. There's a lot of ways of connecting with me, and I will be more than happy to add it to the top of the list of the ones I put when I come online here. Okay, again, it boils down to this issue that if we work together, we can absolutely make this a better place, in a better world in which to live for most people. Now, let me blow this up because I cannot read the dang thing. And since it's on, there we are. This one here. This is Nathan's channel. Okay. Excellent show. This neat little quantum show. He covers some absolutely bizarre topics on occasion. But this one is really well worth popping in on, taking a look at. Yeah, I can understand that, Jenny. I gave it up years ago. I used to actually kill a 26er a night without even blinking. What do we got here? Big J says, do believe we could achieve a utopia. We absolutely could. We absolutely could live in a utopia. 50,000 years ago, this world had over 10 billion people living on it, where there was no fear, there was fear. There was no famine, there was no jealousy, there was absolutely no war. We can have that again, but it's going to take us some time to turn it around. And I finally came to the conclusion that if I can grow this channel to several thousand people, now, like I said, my goal this year is to get to the 1,000. But with your help, I am certain we can do it. But why not build this channel so that it does have people looking at the more positive side of things? Okay. The reality is this is something we really have to look at. Okay. But the question is whether people desire to do this or whether you desire to let things sit. By the way, I found out this is a total off topic. Now you've seen me talk with my hands a fair chunk. Obviously, if you've been on here at all, I do that a lot. Well, I was down at the drug mart today, and I was talking away in my hand. I just moved my hand, and my ring just slipped off my finger and across the room. Now, fortunately, the woman spotted it, and she picked it up and handed it back to me. But this is one of the side effects I never even considered when I was looking at the idea that I no longer desire to be overweight, over what I consider weight. Never mind what the doctors tell me. World, how you doing? Glad you could join us. And here we go, people. This is the thing that I watch for. Okay, because I came to the understanding that, that this is a way of my helping give back to you guys. Because the support I get from you is absolutely I absolutely love the way that things are working here. Okay. But yeah, it was funny. I was watching his video the other day. Now, I know Bigfoot from firsthand experience. I've done no research on it. Okay. I only have what I've got from firsthand. But I was watching some of the footage that the Duke has, that World has. I think Duke must be your name, but don't quote me on that. JCL, how you doing? Glad you could join us. I was watching some of the videos, and some of the videos he's got are remarkable. And, that's saying a lot when you think that I can't spot the details in half of them. But that's my eyesight. I mean, heck, I take my glasses off, you can't see the details in my own screen. The one thing I caution people of, okay, is that when you're asking me questions, if you've got a picture, absolutely send it. I will take a look at it. I cannot tell you I can't tell you about any video or any photograph as to whether it's been doctored, made up, or what have you. All I can do is comment on it from an observational standpoint from my background, which, rest assured, is not videography. Okay. The reality is this world is changing now. People have told me that 2022 was a disaster, right? And then they turn around and they go, 2023, we're going to have famine, we're going to have food, we're going to have oil shortages and power outages, and and this is the things that we're going to have. And I'm looking at it going, 2022 was a shambles for me. I ended up with, I kid you not, my parents' estate cleared, and I ended up with in excess of $100,000 in the bank. That should have been great, except I did stupid things, and I'm still in the same boat. Now, I could look at this and go, I'm just going to go back to the same boat when my brother's estate clears. I'm going to go back into the same boat. But the reality is, I'm already shifting gears because I'm looking at 2023 going, this is my year to deliberately take dominant control over where my life is going and figure out how to make things work that I'm content with. Okay, am I perfect? Absolutely not. I'm barely functional as far as being me goes. But I did decide, and the funny thing is, I wrote this, okay, but I'm going to go back through it one step at a time, and I'll start working with it tonight and redesign my own company to make sure it does exactly what I desire it to, including things like financial projections, this sort of thing. Now, I had a massive fear. I didn't realize it, but that's really what it boiled down to, of stepping into the spotlight and being looked at by people and them going, oh, you're nuts. You don't know what you're talking about. But I mean, I'm looking at this going, I was told, heck, it would have been in the early 1980s. Okay, so we're talking 40, 45 years ago here. Almost 50 years ago in all. No, it would be, 40 years ago. I was told that I should have been doing this years ago, before video ever came out. I was told I should have started doing this sort of thing in public. And the last thing I wanted to do was step into public. Now I'm looking at it going, I absolutely sort of have to. And just to be clear, people, no, this is straight Coca-Cola. Right, it does not have any additives to it. But, not that really matters to most of you. But, that reminds me, I saw something that was priceless. Okay, it was absolutely priceless and totally stupid, especially, and I do mean stupid, especially if you take a look at, if you know anything about cars. I saw this video on YouTube. Okay, now it wasn't this size. Okay, but these people, this video, what it did was it said, we've made a brand new discovery that can save you thousands of dollars in gas. Okay, with one simple additive to add to your gas tank. Now, I will tell you, this is the dumbest idea for an addition to your gas tank I've ever seen. Okay, I'm not a mechanic, so those of you that are mechanically inclined at all, okay, the guy says it's this one addition that will save you thousands of dollars in gas. Right? You just have to add this to your gas tank. And he grabs a bottle that looks exactly like this. Okay, a 2-liter bottle. And he says, and it was full of dark liquid. He says, take this and pour it add it to your gas tank. It will save you thousands of miles, thousands of dollars in gas bills. And I will tell you, from my understanding, you take something like this, as stupid as this, and you pour it into your gas tank, you will save thousands of dollars in gas miles. You'll seize your engine solid. Car doesn't run, no gas cost. I love the whole thing about Bigfoot. From my standpoint, I ran into them when I was about 3, maybe 4 years old. I ran into them in person. But I ran into a family of them. Right? And I'll tell you, it's a good thing I did, or I wouldn't have been here today. They didn't exactly save my life directly, but sure as shooting, if they hadn't guided me back to the campsite, I'd have ended up starving to death and totally lost. Because I had no sense of direction then. I still have no sense of direction. But I can tell you from firsthand physical experience that Bigfoot is not only a very gentle creature, but it's very kind, very empathic, right? And it is certainly not the violent individual that people are thinking about. Okay. And yes, and that was the one thing, it's kind of what triggered my putting the second volume of Races of the World together. Was I was going through it and going, I've got 59 races out, and I didn't include Bigfoot. Well, that was a massive oversight, right? So it was the first one that I added to volume 2. And since then, I've got 40 or 45 more that I'm working on, but priority 1 is to get the tail end of the pictures done for the second printing. So I'll be dealing with that. I figured it out. If I get 10 pages a week done, then by the time I get the rest of the pictures done, we should be able to go to print before the end of March at its current pace. And since I'm the one in dominant control over whether that gets done or not, okay, aside from I don't do the pictures, I just have to stay on top of them and get them dealt with. Which reminds me, remember that thing I mentioned about a list? That's why I keep it here. Because as soon as I get done, I've got a couple emails I got to deal with. This one is print off what the heck are they called? Print off the clearance forms. We'll call it that. Print those off. Get them in the hard copy file and be done with it. This is why, and I showed this to be, I haven't printed off anymore, but I am starting to get the pictures printed off so I can show you guys what's coming up, because I do have pictures being done. And instead of just telling you I'm getting them done, as a matter of fact, let's do this. Now here's one for you guys that are in the chat room. If you happen to be one of these people that actually picked up Races of the World, okay, if there's a picture, I've got I've only got 15 left, so about 3/4 are done. But if you've got a picture that you would like me to print off, absolutely ask. I'll be more than happy to look into it. If I've got it, I don't have a problem printing it off. Because every one of the pictures I've got, I can now start working with. And frankly, it's time I started doing so. But again, it boiled down to this funny issue of my looking in the mirror. And yeah, I noticed, where are we here? Yeah, World mentioned that a little bit ago. He goes, I didn't want to be public either, but I had to give people information. And that was what ended up happening for me, is I'm looking at the way the world is going and going, I can sit back and go, I know the world's going to buckle. Mr. L, how you doing? Glad you could make it and hope your day's been great so far. Hope it gets better. So maybe, you've managed to join us here. Maybe I can mess it up for you. What do you think? Give it a shot? What have I got here? Print off. Yes. But, World was saying he didn't desire to go public either. And I sort of have to take a look at it. Yeah, amazingly, thing I found there, Joe, is you don't get a lot of Bigfoots wandering through the gravesite. Although that would be something entertaining to watch. I've seen some of the most bizarre things, and quite often it's not so much what you see as what as what you don't see, as what gets blocked out. But it's funny, people are talking about the paranormal. What I'm starting to see is that the paranormal is what people call the normal. In other words, if what you're experiencing is a common phenomenon in your life, that becomes the normal. And the not seeing it becomes the abnormal or the paranormal. This is the thing, is we're looking at the world changing. Are the aliens going to come out and say, hey, we're here, we're here to straighten things out? First of all, the answer is no. Not their task, not their focus. Much more importantly, if they were to show up en masse, most of the world that has a religious belief structure has been raised to believe that we are completely alone. They show up and decimate that, and all of a sudden we have a problem where society runs into all sorts of snags. Okay. So hey, YJ, didn't see you come in. Oh, there you go. Yeah, chores are, I always find chores annoying. I don't know about you. But there's a lot of them that have to be done. But we take a look at what is holding you back. Now, for me, one of the things that was really holding me back was I was going, I'm not stepping into the spotlight. I do not desire to deal with it. Okay. And I wouldn't mind some input, guys, in this one in particular. I've got this tendency, because of the problems I've had with corporations in the past, I usually go into talking to one of them. To anybody in a corporation, I go in with the idea already in mind that they don't know what they're doing. What I've got to figure out how to do, and if you've got an idea on how to pull this one off, let me know, because I am not the one to ask about this one. Anybody got a suggestion on how to figure out how to bite your tongue, and instead of looking at people and putting my foot in my mouth all the way to my hip? It's never a question for me. It's never a question for me, am I going to put my foot in my mouth? It's a question of, how am I going to get the other one in there beside it? And then carry on breathing. But somehow I managed to get both feet in my mouth and still managed to find room to try and put a third one in. What I haven't figured out is how to bite my tongue well enough to avoid that. That's where I run into the problem. If anybody's got suggestions, that's great. I was talking to a stranger today. He was a total stranger. We were half an hour into a conversation before I thought to ask him my name. Ask him his name. Should have asked him mine. I couldn't remember it either. But he turned around and gave me an idea on how to drop the acid level in my system. I threw another shirt out yesterday because I burned right through it. The acid in my skin is so freaking high that I'll dissolve cotton shirts. Right. And he turned around, he goes, well, he says, take a glass of water, add a little bit of baking soda and a little bit of lemon juice to it. He says it'll help balance out the acid levels. Okay. And I'm thinking that may be the problem with why my teeth are dissolving. I'm just looking at what YJ is putting here. He says, just show up and say, I'm here to placate your sense of... I'm not sure that's diplomatic, but I love it. Sorry about that. He goes, I'm here to placate your sense of superiority and shoehorn my ideas into your company for the betterment of all. You know, like I said, I'm not sure that's quite diplomatic, but it's better than my telling them they're a freaking idiot. But I told somebody that one day. The guy made a comment. I looked at him and I says, "Excuse me, but are you completely are you a complete idiot, or are there parts missing?" He turned around and told me I was being awfully rude. So of course I looked at him and stuck my foot even deeper, and I says, "Dang, I thought I was getting good at it. I'll have to do better." They Yeah, well, that's what people keep telling me. It's funny because people tell me they're angels, that the disease cannot live in an alkaline body. Mine's been high acid since I was born, to the point that when I was still married, I was working outside with my in the garden, and my now ex-wife came out and gave me a hug. Dead of summer, we're 40 degrees from sweating like a stuck pig. She wrapped her arms around me and took first-degree burns over the entire length of her arms, right? And it was just that quick, So it's always been that problem for me. Bonus. Mr. L's just saying baking soda and a little water is effective to help stomach issues and neutralize acid. Fortunately, I don't actually have stomach issues very often, but I certainly have a problem with the acid levels. But no, I appreciate the corroboration there. Some are, but in all fairness, there's no indication that I've seen that acid levels or pH balance is anything of a deciding factor, except when that is literally what a given group is striving to study. I'm sure you'll figure out how to put the other one in there. Just be careful you don't turn it, because they're really difficult to get out after you get them turned sideways. But no, the thing that I found where it came to the health levels is, if disease can't survive in an alkali system, you'd think that would mean in an acid one they'd thrive. I hadn't been, until last October, I hadn't been sick at all in 25 years. Minus 3 tooth infections, 1 heart attack, and a really annoying stroke. Yes, I probably should have made coffee today, but quite frankly, I never got around to it. Although, when I went out to the restaurant, I had 3 cups of it anyway. But when we take a look at what's holding us back, I looked in the mirror and went, I don't think, up until just this last week, really, I went, going and becoming a big, somebody that is in the spotlight, I all of a sudden came to the conclusion that, maybe it's time I did. And to that end, I've talked about changing my wardrobe and what have you. Well, I was looking at my Canadian Tire money. Right, I've got a Canadian Tire credit card, and it's been clear, aside from a couple of $100, which will get cleared in the next day or two. Go enjoy it there, Kimberly. Thanks so much for joining us again. Canadian Tire credit card gives points that what they call Canadian Tire money, and I can go in now. I was just looking at it, going, I've got all this extra money that is just built up because I was using the card, so I can go in and work with it. Honestly, again, there, YJ, fibromyalgia is a dis-ease on this planet. It's not something that seems to be, you get abducted and all of a sudden you've got it. Because I know way too many people with fibromyalgia that don't even either accept the possibility of aliens, nor have they ever claimed any sort of interaction with them. Okay. What came out a little? Oh. What are we looking at here? Oh, no need to apologize. Apologize there, angels. The reality of it is, I say things. Everybody's got this thing in their head. Most people do. They've got this little voice in your head that goes, "Oh, wait a minute, I shouldn't say that," and they bite their tongue on it. Mine is a little bit delayed. I'm pretty certain it's slow because my mouth goes into gear, out it comes, and then this little voice goes, you really should not have said that. Now here's a cute thought for you, Ange. Andrews just said I had fibromyalgia and autoimmune. Hopefully this means it's getting less and less of an issue, as had usually indicates in past. Mine yours is World says my gauge is just completely broken. It's just priceless the way some of this works. I know that I have a tendency, somebody will ask me a question, my mouth goes into gear and out it comes, and it's like, well, you asked. I remember I was doing a reading at a psychic fair one day. The place was packed, but my table had nobody at all at it. And this one girl walks up, and she looks at me and she goes, she's looking at the table. I said, "Something's got your attention." She goes, "No." I said, "Yeah, absolutely. Something has really got your attention." And she says, "Well, it's this medium thing. Does it actually work?" Right. And I says, "I don't know. Why don't we ask the guy beside you?" And she looked at me funny. So I rattled off what he looked like, told her what I could about him, while she burst into tears, stumbles backwards, falls in the chair. Right. And she's just absolutely rib-racking tears. And I looked at her and I says, "Well, I says, we're not opening that door any further. But I says, I think we just opened the door and we just answered the question as to does it work?" Well, the psychic standing beside me looks over at me and goes, "Keith, take the spikes out of the baseball bat." That's just the way it works for me. It's not a question of really thinking things through. Okay. Someday I should learn to think, but it's like people ask me, they'll go, "Well, do you think that?" And I look at them and I go, "I gave up thinking. It confuses me." But this is why with with certain things, I'll look at it and go, somebody else can deal with it because I just don't have the tolerance for it. And much worse in a lot of ways is I don't have any interest in developing the tolerance for it. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, World just going, editing? What is that? That's what I do when I'm writing. And I've got a phenomenally picky editor. And when I mean picky, I mean she will take a look at when we get to the end of a paragraph, or a scene change, she's looking for added spaces that don't have to be there. I don't mean added letters. I mean added spaces, blanks at the end of a paragraph. And she go, this isn't required. See, I can remember the bad ones, but I've also had some phenomenally good ones. This is, this is one of those things about the way I work with things. And I've shown you guys this before. This particular book, when you look at it, right, this is a standard human, 5'8". This is a standard sized Swazian. Okay. Well, just trying to get the glare out of the way. And that's not working well. But you see the height of him, you're looking at an extra, well, he's 8 feet tall. And so you can see the difference in size. Now, people have asked me, why don't they show themselves en masse? Well, in physical form. Picture how much of a start this is going to have, having somebody walk down and just take a look at the size of the mace he's carrying. That is the weapon they use for choice. Okay. But this is why I say, with the Yldrbacian Chronicles, yes, it's science fiction, science fantasy. I've decided I'm going to get it finished any way I look at it. But am I going to worry too much about the net? I'm going to be talking to a friend of mine about getting PDFs done up and copyrighted properly so that I can actually start selling the PDF without worrying about it going sideways. But this is a question, again, of talking to somebody that knows what they're doing, but is not involved in a corporate situation. Because it's absolutely criminal in my eyes the way they do it. Oh, nice there, YJ. I wanted pizza the other day. I had to buy it because, frankly, I have no idea how to make it. And it's one of those things, again, it's this cooking thing that I'm not really great at. What do we got here? Nice idea there, YJ. Just relaxing. When I get done this, I got a whole pile more work I got to do. Well, I don't technically have to. I'm on my own schedule. Yeah. Nope. Yeah, I'm trying to remember the number of letters. Even I end up double checking on occasion. But then I actually wrote somebody I know the other day. They're going through a change, and they've changed their name. So I wrote them up and I said, look, I know you by this name, but I know that's not the name that you're going by now. But I can't for the life of me remember what it was, what it is now. So would you mind letting, send it back and I'll transfer it into my database. Right. Because for me, it's not a question of whether you get the spelling exactly right. It's a question of whether you get the name right. That's where it becomes an interesting situation. Oh, look, I didn't break my pen. Sitting on it, it's like, that feels like it's going to snap. And by the way, you'll be happy to know, especially with that one, YJ, actually, I should do that. I can't do it right now, but let's do that. I will get the other picture done. Print off, where are we? I will get the picture printed off tonight after I deal with the other couple of things I've got, but it's on the bottom of my list now. And that's something I found works really well. What have we got here? Just looking at the cross communication here. Finding out what is holding you back is one of the key factors. And this is why I'm going to be looking at and going back through this. And regarding Inner Voice Enterprises, I'm going to redesign it. I do have to talk to somebody that knows how to do it because I have thought about it and changing my YouTube name from what it is, which I think it's listed as Inner Voice Enterprises. But I got to talk to somebody and get it changed over because I do agree with whoever it was that mentioned that I should run it and run my YouTube channel as R. Keith Andrews. It would help immensely in finding it, which, needless to say, is the idea. So I'm looking at it at this point going, okay, where do we go from here? How do we make this actually work? I'm just bringing this up to see where we're standing. There we go. Yeah. Because it boils down to, I made a choice. I could continue sitting back and waiting for people to wake up and figure this out, or I can step into the spotlight and go, this has to happen, and this is how to make it happen. Do as I say, not as I do. Give up on the idea. I literally had to go, I'm not going to wait any longer for people to wake up without guidance, without assistance, because it's taking too long. I've waited realistically, I'm 59 now, so this means about 50 years. I've been waiting for people to wake up, and all that's happened is I've seen it go downhill. Now I can continue watching it degrade without saying a word, at which point, in my opinion, and it's just my opinion, if you know there is a problem and you don't stand up and do something, and this is called kicking myself in the pants, if you will. Okay. If you know that something is happening and you're not saying something about it, then you're doing one of two things. You're either permitting it to grow by literally going, I agree with it, or you're buttoning your tongue, you're buttoning your lip, and you're going, I'm just not going to do anything, thereby, in essence, condoning it continuing. Now, my fear of being out in the middle of public, that notwithstanding, I cannot, in good conscience, remain quiet at all fronts. Now, there are topics that I won't touch on here, but I will touch if somebody decides to bring me on their show. Okay, because here's the thing. Okay, there are some of the topics that I'm not going to cover on here. Okay, and you can ask and I'll give you a very, very cursory perception. But if somebody wants to bring me on to tangle with them head on, pick a venue that works in that direction. The big one is where it comes to religion. My view on religion, okay, and I do mean on religion. On spirituality, it's real simple. Every single denomination of mainstream religions, every one of the so-called pagan religions, all of them have part of the truth each. But where it comes to religion itself, no, I'm not about to tangle with it head on here. Well, I'm not quite certain where that came from in the world, but that looks like a wrestling setup. The thing that you have to look at is I've been standing back. Well, you don't have to look at it. I looked at it and went, I've been standing back, and it's time to step up and say, hey, let's wake up. I will tell you, if you're walking down a road, if you're following somebody that is telling you the world's going to end, there's no hope for it, we're going to die, I will vouch for one thing. Every single one of you out there, every one of you is going to die, myself included. Of course, in my case, if past record is any indication, I'll probably die 2 or 3 times more before I finish the job. That's just me. Like I said, God doesn't want me, Satan's afraid I'll take over. Frankly, not quite ready to die yet anyway. But if you're following somebody that is telling you, you've got to do exactly what this guide is telling you, or he will make your life miserable. I'm telling you, you're following somebody that is not necessarily on the up and up, or not necessarily walking right down the way and the straight and narrow. That's just now. I am not the only person out there with an insight or with an opinion. I'm just more opinionated than some. And this is why I tell people that I make every single person I ever meet happy. Some of them I make happy because I show up. Most of them I make happy because I leave. Which is really comical when people tell me if I walk away without telling them, I'm the one being rude. And I'm looking at it going, well, if you've been cut out of the equation, out of the conversation, is that by any chance not being rude as well? The concepts that people are clinging to right now is just absolutely incredible. It's appalling. I remember it happening firsthand 2,000 years ago, 1,700 years ago, about really about 1,000 years ago, everything went sour. 700 years ago, we do this, it seems, about every 300 or 400 years. Okay, which is really kind of funny. It means you're looking essentially 10 generations down the 300 would be 10, 15 generations down the road. And mankind goes and does the same stupid move all over again. Okay. And the reason I call it stupid is because the records initially show that people are doing this again. Now, I got a question for you. If you're given the option between listening to somebody tell you the world is going to end and there's nothing you can do about it, or listening to somebody that tells you, yes, the world is in trouble, but here's what we can do about it, which one makes more sense, or which one is more enjoyable to listen to? Okay. I mean, if you want to watch The World is Going to End, there's a couple of really good movies out there that are great for it. That is absolutely true, that world. The unfortunate part is and world just says, those who forget the lessons of the past are doomed to repeat them. This is accurate. The problem is that those that dwell on the past have exactly the same problem. Okay. This is why we have to take a look at it. I gotta look, I don't have it up here. I'm pretty certain there, YJ, that you're probably looking at the Yldrbacs. But I will have to double check that. The Yldrbacs, I believe, are in book 2. I don't think I've got them in the first volume. Pretty certain I don't. Nope, they're in volume 2. So I will have to dig that up, but I can absolutely look into that. But I'm pretty certain who you're referring to there, YJ, is the Yldrbacs. Yeah, and this is the thing, and this is why, because I refuse to go down the road myself about the world's going to end. I was talking to somebody the other day. It was just priceless. They looked at me and they literally started telling me about their religion and about the fact that they were one of the 144 that were going to be lifted up. And I looked at the person. I went, I do have a question. 144,000. I looked at the person. And I says, okay, there are you're looking at 144,000 are going to be picked. But how do you figure out which of the 144,000? Because I said, I'll guarantee there are more than 144,000 in your particular thought line. So, I mean, we look at it. Now, here's a neat little thought for you. People keep talking about us running out of power. Okay, running out of electricity and what have you. There's brownouts all over places in the world. So what does mankind do? Oh, let's swap into electric vehicles. Because, that's going to cut down on the stress on the hydroelectric plants. But just a thought. Anyway, people, I gotta say thank you so much for joining me. Again, if you like the stream, do give us a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button and share the daylights out of it. It's time to make things happen on a positive side. Okay. I mean, it is time to really let go of the negative past and let's start building a much more positive future together. Okay, because working together, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. Now, I will be back again tomorrow, Saturday, so I'll be back again tomorrow at 4:30. Okay, At least that's the plan at this point. If I die tomorrow, well, that's going to put a kink in things. But that's the idea. And if any of you have a topic you'd like to look at, absolutely, I will get something organized. But we've got to take our fears of our own issues and put them behind us. So I will be back again tomorrow. Thank you again so much for showing up. Your encouragement is always thankfully accepted. I will see you again tomorrow. And until then, do take care of yourselves and each other. And for pity's sakes, stay positive.